Today, Back-to-Back serves in 6 different sites around the world, in Mexico, Nigeria, India, and Haiti. Over the past 18 years, it's been our goal to run after the one, and though we've made more mistakes than we can count, we've also learned about the best ways to care for orphans and vulnerable children. But it all started with just one couple, Todd and Beth Guckenberger, who went on a mission trip to Mexico and saw the great need for more hands to help take care of the forgotten children of the world. After seeing the need, they knew God was calling them to move to Mexico to partner with existing orphanages in Monterrey. They packed up their bags and went, not knowing all God had in mind. Back-to-Back was birthed, not with great ambitions or lofty goals, but simply by one couple being obedient to where God was leading. The truth was, Todd and Beth weren't sure how to best care for orphans, and they had no idea how to start a ministry. But as the saying goes, God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Each step of the way, as the ministry has grown, we've had to rely not on our own strength, but on God, knowing that we cannot do any of the things He's called us to do without His help. The first year, Todd and Beth prayed that God would send just 50 people to Monterrey to partner with them on mission trips. Within 12 months, 350 people had come. The ministry in Monterrey grew from working with just one orphanage to 6 within just a few years. As the ministry and staff grew, Back-to-Back became eyewitnesses of children's lives being transformed. But like anything in life, it wasn't all smooth sailing from there. As Back-to-Back learned about the needs of the children we were serving, we began to see a problem. Public education in Mexico ends after the 9th grade, and when that time comes for a child who's grown up in an orphanage, they leave the only home they've known and end up on the streets. Statistics show that most orphans grow up and turn to a life of drugs or prostitution, since there are few other opportunities for work. We realized that we had spent all this time pouring into the lives of children just to lose them to the streets. It seemed like an impossible problem, and without God, it would have been. But with God's help, in 2002, Back-to-Back started a Hope Education program in Monterrey, where we literally invited the children who were aging out of orphanages to come live with us on the Back-to-Back campus, and committed to caring for them as our own. Today, Back-to-Back's Hope Education program has grown to over 90 students, and we've watched children grow up to be adults who have broken the cycle of poverty in their family and have given their lives to Jesus. Maybe Back-to-Back would have been content to stop there, but God had other plans. In 2007, Back-to-Back answered God's calling to start a second ministry site in Jos, Nigeria. Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa and is riddled with conflict between Muslims and Christians. Back-to-Back went, not knowing what serving the orphaned and vulnerable child would look like there. We decided to open a community center to serve one of the villages where currently we provide for the needs of over 40 orphaned children. We partner with 3 orphanages in Jos, and just this past fall started the first Hope program in Nigeria with 9 boys living with a couple who God told long ago would not just have physical children, but many spiritual children. Seeing God's work in Nigeria prompted us to start a site in India the following year, a place that we knew God was leading us to. India alone has 1/3 of the world's orphans and is one of the poorest countries in the world. Back-to-Back has worked hard to bring the model of depth and not just breadth to a country that has such great need. In 2014, Back-to-Back started the first Hope program in India, where we invited 28 children to live on our campus with us. We've been amazed at the way God has made a family out of orphans and Back-to-Back staff, and the way He is changing all of our lives in the process. After the earthquake in Haiti in 2010, Back-to-Back began to feel God working on our hearts to start a site there. We waited on God's timing, and in 2013 officially launched our Haiti site. We've been amazed at the way God has put Haiti on the hearts of so many and have been overwhelmed by the amount of people who want to visit our site there and sponsor the children we serve. As God has provided, we are continuing to seek out orphanages and communities where God is leading us to serve. We know God has not forgotten the people of Haiti, and it has been an honor to serve the children there. As Christians, we're all called to care for orphans. James tells us it's one of the few things it's okay to be religious about. Statistics show there are around 162 million orphans in the world today. These are children growing up without the covering and protection that God intended them to have in a family, making them vulnerable to neglect and abuse. Orphans tend to be the low fruit picked off the tree, and Satan seems to be quick to make sure they never learn about their identity in Christ. 162 million may seem overwhelming to you and I, but God knows each one of them by name. As believers in Jesus, God has asked each of us to not just sit back in our comfortable lives and turn a blind eye. We all have a part to play in being the hands and feet of Jesus for these orphaned children. Back to Back is able to exist because we've never been made up of just the people who decide to join staff. Back to Back is the person who takes a mission trip, and the one who decides to sponsor a child, and the people who support the staff. Back to Back is made up of thousands of individuals who have responded to God's command to care for the least of these. Tonight, you're here to help support Chelsea's role as missions team coordinator and Tallie's role as child sponsorship director. Both girls work for Back to Back from the home office in Cincinnati, where their behind-the-scenes work gets people to the mission sites to serve and connects people with children to sponsor. Working in the home office certainly isn't as glamorous as working on the ground at one of our sites, but we've seen the need for people who are willing to lay down their career in order to serve Back to Back in the home office. Each staff person at Back to Back raises funds for their salary so that the money raised for children can go directly to the needs of orphans. Not many would choose a job where raising a salary is required, but when God calls you to do something, you do it. Chelsie and Tallie have answered the call God has placed on their life and are willing to lay down their preferences in order to be obedient. Thank you for being here tonight, for being part of the Back to Back extended family, and for coming alongside the work Chelsie and Tallie do to serve the orphan child. By God's grace, He's using all of us to reach the children He loves so much.